Hello YouTube, my name is Underking Duck and today I'm going to be talking to you about my suggestions for Phasmophobia. Phasmophobia is a game that I got on release and overall I have been enjoying it a whole lot. I already have let's see here, 220 hours into it, which isn't as much as other people, but I try to play as much as I can. And over my many hours of playing, I have seen maybe some balance issues, some small quality of life changes that might improve the game, and just many other suggestions that I have. So basically, this video is going to be about a lot of different suggestions for different aspects of the game. But in this in particular order, we are going to be talking about items first, what needs to be buffed, what needs to be reworked, and what needs to be nerfed. Then we're going to be talking about a new item, which I think would be really good for the game. Then the side objectives, the photo camera, the ghost behavior and room selection mechanic, then the ghost evident combos for upcoming new ghost types, because there are some areas that I think would be better to have certain combinations versus other ones, a new difficulty level, and then at the end of the video we're going to talk about some small quality of life changes that would be good for both veteran players and new players alike. So if any of that sounds interesting, stick around because we have a lot to cover. The infrared light sensor. The infrared light sensor has a few problems which makes it very, very underpowered compared to another item which very much functions in a very similar role to it, which is the motion sensor. See, the current problem with the infrared light sensor is that it's basically a much inferior version to the motion sensor. Like, a motion sensor will give you a notification in the truck when a ghost walks past it, where this, it'll emit a light, and that's all it does. Like, it has maybe some purpose, but once you get motion sensors, and let's face it, you should be getting those before these any day, these really serve no purpose. What I would suggest they do for infrared light sensors is when a ghost walks past an infrared light sensor, have it show the ghost's silhouette for maybe 2 to 4 seconds, whatever would be deemed more balanced. I feel like that would give this item a much greater role because it will help you with those objectives where you have to get a photo of the ghost, because more often than not when you get that objective, if you have a shy ghost or one that's just not very active overall, you can be wasting a lot of time in one game just trying to get a photo. And making this change would be making getting that objective much easier, and it would definitely make the item way better. The Parabolic Microphone. Okay, my biggest problem with the Parabolic Microphone is that overall, its detection range from which it picks up sound is very weak. Like, a lot of people make a case that you should use this on bigger maps, but in my opinion, this often doesn't pick up sounds very well, or it'll pick up like noises, like something like the map's naturally making, and like it's not actually the ghost, or the ghost will make a noise like right in front of me and the parabolic microphone won't pick it up. Like, overall, this item in my opinion is very weak. What I would do to actually just make this item a little bit more viable is just greatly increase its detection range, because from what I can tell, the parabolic microphone is a really weak option, and in all my hours of playing this game, I very rarely, if at all, ever use this item, and I would not recommend purchasing it right now as with how it currently functions in this game. The Thermometer. Okay, so I've been very vocal about this on the Phasmophobia Discord, but it is definitely worth mentioning here. In my opinion, with how thermometers currently function, they are completely over the top. Like, this is the best item you should have. And it's because it makes finding the ghost room absolutely easy. While you could use other tools such as sound sensors to try to figure out where the ghost is based on where you're picking up noise, or EMF, which even if you find the ghost room, you're not always guaranteed to get an EMF reading right away, or the ghost can interact with rooms outside of its favorite room, which can mislead you a bit when using an EMF reader. When you use the thermometer, you instantly find the ghost room as soon as you see a substantial drop in either Fahrenheit or Celsius, whatever you prefer to use. And honestly, it makes the search aspect of the game of looking for the ghosts just way too easy. When you do a game without a thermometer versus with a thermometer, you see a substantial difference in how easy or hard it is to find a ghost. Now, in some instances, you could argue if you don't use a thermometer, the ghosts can be very active and it make it easier to find them. But in some cases, that's not the case. And if you have the thermometer, it's just incredibly easy. Like, honestly, what I want them to change with the thermometer is instead of just pointing it in this room and saying, oh, look, it's 58.3 Fahrenheit, make it so that the ghost, like if the ghost is in this room, that you have to get pretty much very close to it until you see a temperature drop. Now, I know that's probably not very realistic, considering that's not how temperature works, but honestly, that's the only way really to nerf this item without flat out removing it, because I mean it is a cool item, but it just makes it just way too easy. Either that or just make it so temperature drops occur much more later into the game, because at the moment this is broken. It makes the game way too easy. Like, you watch anyone speed run, this is the first thing they're gonna have in their hand, because you just boom, identify the ghosts, get your evidence items set up right away, and you're pretty much done. So yeah, this item definitely needs a nerf, but I do believe if it does get a proper nerf and it's not useless, it'll still serve a role. Sanity pills. Okay, so in my opinion, sanity pills need a rework. I feel with how sanity pills are currently implemented that they are either very powerful in some situations while being very underpowered in other situations. Also, its power level and overall usefulness also has player count to take into consideration. For example, having 4 sanity pills as 1 or 2 people on a small or medium-sized map is a lot stronger than having 4 sanity pills in a 4-player game like, say, Asylum. But of course, this is always subject to where the ghost room is, of course. But if you're playing a big game of Asylum, you don't find the room right away, and you start running really low on sanity, the overall usefulness of the sanity pill drops substantially. Versus if you're 1 or 2 people and you're in a house and you still have 4 pills left, and like you just find the ghost right away. Like it to me, that's kind of a little bit of a design problem in my opinion. So what I would suggest to solve this problem is 2 things. First, limit the amount of sanity pills a party can take based on party size. So if you have 2 players, then it's only 2 sanity pills for that game. Next, instead of just increasing your sanity by X amount, I would be in favor of having the item max out your sanity, but have it return to its original value over a period of time. The time at which it takes to return to its original value should scale what the value of your sanity was prior to taking the pill. So that means, for example, if you take a sanity pill when you're at 20%, then it would decrease your original value. It would decrease your original value at a slower rate than if you took it at 60%. This would pretty much encourage high risk, high reward play. So basically, if you take the sanity pill later, after doing a few hunts, you're going to be able to avoid hunts for a probably greater period of time. If you take it when you're at 60 or 75%, it's going to drop down substantially faster to its original value. But I think doing this would make the item much more balanced. Now, I'm not quite sure if it's easy for them to implement an item limit based on party size, But if they could do that, this, in my opinion, would be a really good rework, and I think it would be the step in the right direction for this item. UV lights and flashlights. Okay, so this is going to be a relatively fast one, but I've seen this suggested before. In my opinion, I've seen it before, and I agree with it. I think it would be a cool feature. I think UV lights and flashlights should have a battery life because, in my opinion, I believe that would add to the overall spookiness and scare aspect of the game of having to manage your flashlight's battery. And I think it would just be actually a pretty good change for the game overall. Plus, you could just make batteries a new item that, of course, you're going to have to start out with when you start the game, and just make it something that you probably don't have to carry it as a I don't know if it should be carried as another item or just have it as like kind of function like the head mounted camera where you can just have it equipped as like a fourth item, or how it would function or how they would implement this. There's a lot of ways you can go about with this design, but I think overall I think it would be a very interesting change if they were to implement it into the game, and I think a lot of people would actually like it over time for what it adds to the game. But other than that, that's pretty much the only thing I would like to see changed for these two items, and three if you want to talk about the normal flashlight. But come on, no one uses normal flashlights after getting strong flashlights. The next thing I want to talk about is a new item suggestion that I had. Now, while this is not a new item to uncover, say, another form of evidence, which I think many players would probably like to see that, unfortunately, I can't think of any suggestions that would help you find new evidence for a ghost, while at the same time not be too closely related to the tools we already have in the game. But what I do have a suggestion for is for another item that functions like the head mounted camera in that it doesn't take up an item slot, and it gives you a way to view your sanity and maybe even the ghost's total activity. Now, some might say that activity showing on it would make it too strong to know when a hunt ends, but I would disagree with that. You can have a flashlight on and just look at the ground, and it pretty much is the same thing. Plus, it would make those candle-only challenges a little bit easier when it comes to hunts. But I think it would be pretty cool. Just buy this item, put it on, and either have a button you hit where you can look at your, say it's like a risk item, or just have it somewhere on your screen that shows your sanity and total activity. Now, if for some reason total activity is deemed too powerful, which in my opinion I don't think it would be, just keep it for sanity so you can do like a sanity check on your character. Because when you're playing really big maps, it's really, really hard to just stop what you're doing, go all the way back to the van just to see a sanity, or just have one sit in the van and monitor everyone's sanity. That's not really fun. So I think this item would be a very, very good addition to the game. It doesn't have to be too expensive, but it would be a nice little item to have. Next, let's talk about objectives. Okay, there are several objectives in this game that either need to be reworked in, say, how they function, or they need to be completely removed from the game, which I'm sure we can all guess which one I'm going to say needs to be removed. But let's just take it step by step. So first, take a picture of the ghost. This objective can be very hard to get sometimes because you can get a ghost that very rarely shows itself or simply only does it for half a second. Now, I've already suggested previously with the infrared light sensor that this would solve that problem immediately. So if you go ahead with that suggestion, it makes it substantially easier to get this objective. And that's it. The next one is I would rework the witness the ghost event. Now the thing is, what is considered a ghost event should be improved in this game. Because by the game's current logic, seeing a ghost open a door, turning on lights, doing hunts, and even throwing items either at you or around you is not considered a ghost event. It's just random when really everything just listed should be considered a ghost event. Because it's strange to me that like a ghost hunts and that's not a ghost event, or a door opens, it's not a ghost event. It just threw up thing of soap at you, it's not a ghost event. Nah, I would prefer that ghost events be much easier to get. If you want, you can make a new object. Nah, I wouldn't even want that. Never mind. I'm not even going to suggest that. But definitely change how the ghost event thing functions. Because having to wait for it to shut the door and go, hey, and all that stuff, it's really much like the photo objective, can really make you stay in a match much longer than you really should have to. But yeah, and the final objective that needs to be removed, and I'm not sure how much explaining this needs, is the dirty water objective. It is simply too situational depending on where the ghost spawns if the ghost is ever going to do this in any given session. Now, you could still have dirty water function as a means of getting extra cash with the photo camera, but you should not have it be a optional objective because half the time it isn't even an option. But yep, that's all I have to say on objectives. Photo cameras. Okay, so first thing I would want to talk about with photo cameras is that they should make it so we're taking pictures of the spirit box in use, or ghost orbs on the cams, maybe freezing temperatures that you record with the thermometer, EMF level 5, and motion sensors that the ghost moves through that are going off right in front of you should all reward photo evidence. In addition, the photo gallery should increase its photo limit from 10 to 15 because you have up to max 3 cameras, but yet you can only get 10 pictures in this little book here. That really should increase up to 15 because it just makes a lot of sense. In addition, the photo journal section, whatever you want to call this, the photo section of the book, say for example, you take a picture of a ghost. It should have right underneath the picture, right over here, 1/1, meaning you can only take one picture until it no longer counts as reward evidence. If, for example, you take an interaction, have it be 1/2 or 1/4. I don't know what the interaction photo evidence thing is capped at, but basically, if it has a cap, it should be visible on this screen so players know at a quick glance without having to Google it and search it up how many photos of each different type they can take depending on what the photo is. You know what I mean. Like it's just a nice little quality of life change that I think would be really good for the game. But other than that, photos are pretty much fine. Just those few changes would make it way better and much more clearer to newer players and even some older players too. The next thing I would like to talk about, and I'm just going to pull out my document so you can see this, is I want to talk about ghost behavior and its room selection process. So let's talk about one of my biggest problems in this game in terms of the ghosts, and that's hallway ghost. Hallway ghosts can be nothing but a struggle to find on bigger maps. For example, I had a hallway ghost giving off freezing temps in Asylum from the left side of the downstairs hallway all the way down to the other end on the right side. It's like its room was considered a huge radius. I feel like when it's a hallway ghost on, say, Asylum, High School, and even the new prison map, it should be a little bit more centralized in its radius and its activity range. Otherwise, you're going to be spending 30-40 minutes trying to figure out where this ghost is because a lot of the evidence tools in this game are positional based, and the positional based ones would be Spirit Box to some extent, Ghost Orbs, Ghost Writing, definitely, and EMF. Like, those are the biggest positional based ones. Like, fingerprints you can kind of find if the ghost moves around and touches a lot of things, but those few things, no. Like, and just to give you an example what I mean, I took a picture of an example game where what the ghost's room was considered. And as you can see in this picture, this is ridiculous. Like, when I say more centralized, I mean, okay, so say it's in this hallway, cut this in half, cut maybe a part here, a part here, a part here. Like, separate this huge thing so it's a little bit easier for the player to deal with a hallway ghost. Because when you have something like this, it makes the game needlessly more difficult. Like, absolutely needlessly more difficult. And overall, it's not really an enjoyable experience when you have something like this. And there's plenty of other examples I can think of. Now, the other thing that's worth mentioning is the ghost movement speed. Right now on bigger maps, the ghosts really struggle on them because, as I'm sure most of you are aware, unless it's a revenant, it's going to move at the same movement speed as, say, a player. And that's kind of a problem because when you have maps like High Score or Asylum that have big corridors, you could just continuously walk back for like almost 60 seconds or just make a quick turn and just do the same thing. It's kind of a problem. Like, big maps at the moment really work against the game because when a ghost hunts, as long as you're not in a dead end and you know where the ghost is, you can easily survive the hunt, and there's no fear factor, nothing. Just run away from them, and you're done. And in my opinion, what I think they need to do to fix this, and I know maybe some people would not like this, but I think the base movement speed for all the ghosts need to go up slightly. Now, of course, Revenant's still going to have to be faster, and Jin, of course, still has to be pretty fast until they catch up to the player. But the base movement speed for every other ghost, and yeah, the Jin too, once it catches up to a player, so people don't get confused by my wording, should be increased. Because when a hunt happens, it should be about hiding from a ghost, not not outrunning the ghost because you don't have a stamina system and you could just keep running forever and you're done. Like, I feel like these two changes with movement speed and its favorite room selection need to happen. Let's talk about the ghost evidence combos for new ghosts that they may add in the future. I feel personally we need 3 additional ghost types. Now, I'm not going to suggest what they should do mechanically because that's something I feel the developers should, like, that's mostly their job to do all that thinking. But what I will suggest is the combinations of evidence that should be used. Like, right away, I can tell you one suggestion I have is make it so that we get a new ghost that uses fingerprints and ghost orbs. Because if you get those two evidence, and these two are not very hard to get. Now, fingerprints sometimes a little hard to get, but usually not. And if you get these two evidence, bam, it's a poltergeist. Now, what I feel would be a good option for this is I would recommend 2 new ghost type using the fingerprints and ghost orbs. And those would be ghost orbs, fingerprint, and EMF level 5, because EMF can be sometimes a little bit harder to get, and I think it would add a little bit more difficulty to getting this combo, which I would like. And the other one you can throw in, which would probably be a bit easier to do, is fingerprints, ghost orbs, and freezing temps. So that's the 2 combo, because I feel like this would give it more diversity when getting this combo and doesn't make it just so easy poltergeist. Like, you actually have to try a little bit more. Now, the other one is freezing temps and fingerprints, which here I'll just, for yes. So see, in this case, it's either a wraith or a banshee. Now the problem with this is, and I get this quite a lot, this combo, is that if Spirit Box doesn't work, you don't even have to check EMF. You know it's a banshee because Spirit Box is relatively easy to get, where EMF 5 sometimes is a little bit of a pain, like I said previously. But like I said, with this combo, it's very easy. So what I would suggest is adding a new ghost type that uses ghost writing. In my opinion, ghost writing in EMF level 5 can sometimes be 2 of the hardest things to get, depending on the ghost's room. But I think throwing in ghost writing in this mix would make this a little bit less clear as to what the ghost is. Now, of course, if it's a small room, ghost writing is easy to get. But if it's a large room or something like that, it makes this much more challenging, and I think this overall would be a really good change. But yeah, that's pretty much it for what I have suggested for the different evidence combinations. But I think overall, these three additional evidence types would be really good for the game. The next thing I would like to talk about is a new difficulty level. Right now we have amateur, intermediate, and professional. In my opinion, I play nothing but professional, and generally speaking, I normally don't have a hard time. So what I would really like to suggest is a new difficulty level, which would be called, we'll say for all intents and purposes, insane difficulty. So pretty much it unlocks at level 25. It gives you 4 times the cash reward, 2.5 times the experience gain, no setup time, so it's like professional, 2.5 times sanity consumption, so your sanity is going to go down even faster. And basically, when the ghost hunts, you're gonna have an 80-second hunt phase instead of the 50 seconds on professional. And also, just like professional, the value of lost items doesn't get returned to the dead players. But yep, that's it on a new difficulty level, but I think a lot of people would like to see an additional new difficulty level added to Phasmophobia, and I think this would be a great addition. The only other things that I need to mention before ending this video are small quality of life changes that didn't really fit into any of the other categories that were talked about, and I have 3 of them. First, let's talk about contracts. Contracts are currently, how they're currently implemented is that they're random in what you get and they're random in their difficulty. Now, I'm okay with getting random contracts in what you get, but I do believe it would be much better if we could select the difficulty for our contracts when we pick a mission. Because more often than not, I want to do professional map. I may want to only do the small, medium-sized maps, and I just keep getting like asylum, 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 and the other ones just aren't professional, and it's just like it's a little frustrating. So I think overall that would be a good change. The next one is movement speed. I would either suggest you make running a well, first I would actually suggest making running toggleable, yeah, English. But yes, make it so you can toggle the sprint option because it's kind of annoying that I have to hold this down all game. Like it's not comfortable, and just making it toggleable would make it a better, much better experience in my opinion. In addition, either that or just make it so the default speed is just run, because unless you have a stamina system in this game, which we don't have at the moment, I don't really see a purpose of having a walk and a quote-unquote run speed when there's no other system tied to the running. So either add a stamina system, which honestly I don't think is really needed for this game, or just do what I suggest and make it so when you're walking, you just move at the running speed. Because, again, I don't see a design point of just having this in the game as it is. And the next one I would suggest, a real nice one, is add a hotkey to toggle the radius of crucifix when they're placed on the ground. I think a lot of times players get confused on what the radius is for the crucifix, or maybe some people just need help visualizing what area they're covering. So I think it would be nice just have a little button you hit, and when you have crucifix down on the ground, it'll show a little radius around them to let you know what area that crucifix is covering. Like, not like a debug mode or anything, but just something so we could see a radius of what they're covering. And I think that would be incredibly helpful for pretty much everyone that uses Crucifix. But yep, that's pretty much the end of the video and the end of the quality of life suggestions that I was making. But yes, if you guys enjoyed the video, why not give it a like? Give maybe sub to the channel if you enjoy the content, because I do post Phasmophobia content regularly. And if you think anything here if you think everything or anything here was interesting, maybe share it around with your friends and get input, because I would definitely like to get the devs' input on all this stuff that was covered in this video. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. See ya!